Salutations people of YouTube and welcome back to my channel, where in this video I am going to be reviewing something I'm really excited for, as if I haven't been excited for any figure that I've reviewed. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Evolution Voyager class Comic Universe Bludgeon. Before I start off this segment, why don't I tell you a little story? The story of the Transformers Legacy Evolution Voyager class Comic Universe Tarn. So Tarn, don't know much about the character, but I love his design. And he was one of the first Voyager class figures that was revealed for the Transformers Legacy Evolution toy line. And I really wanted to get him, but for some reason it never came to my country. But fortunately for me, that Tarn mold would indeed be repainted into this Bludgeon figure right here. Bludgeon itself, I think, is a really cool design for a Transformer. What with his menacing skull face and his samurai look, making for a pretty menacing Decepticon. And this figure here seems to be no exception. You can see the nice window box revealing his really awesome head sculpt already. On this side, an artwork of Bludgeon in his robot and tech mode. At the back, some nice product shots. On this side, another half of the Legacy Evolution poster. At the top, Legacy Evolution title card with a QR code that you can scan right here. And at the bottom, so it's safe to say that I cannot contain my excitement any further, and let's open this thing up! And here's the Transformers Legacy Evolution Voyager class Comic Universe Bludgeon out of his packaging. This is hands down one of my best Transformers posing experiences. I have intentionally put him in a not so dynamic pose here, so that later on I can further show you the range of how much you can pose this guy. Because of all that posability, his accuracy is a bit sacrificed, but I just cannot deny how much fun I had with this guy. And this will be one of those reviews where the accessories are a bit special. So next up, let's take a closer look at his details. Stripping Bludgeon here clean of all of his accessories and comparing him to some images that I can find from the comics, you can see that he's not really accurate to any particular version of Bludgeon. This is more of a chug recreation of him, you know, just due to him being basically a partial of Tarn, which whilst I don't mind too much, I think they could have done more here to make him more in line with the version of Bludgeon that you would expect. These forearm panels and these shoulder treads could have been changed to samurai plating, as well as some added skirt details here would have been pretty nice. But alas, the only new piece on this figure itself is the head sculpt, which is amazing! I've always loved the head design for Bludgeon. It's basically a robotic human skull wearing a samurai helmet, and that is just badass. And I think they recreated that really well with this head sculpt. Love the silver paint as they used for the face here. And the helmet itself is also sculpted really well. A bit lacking in detail as far as the back goes, but it's still not bad. And the back of the figure itself is clean! At a glance, you can barely tell this thing can transform. And the overall silhouette of this figure is just so sleek looking. He's just a lean orange and green samurai machine. My favorite part about the figure, aside from the head sculpt, has got to be the chest, cast in nice orange/red transparent plastic, but really nicely painted in this bright orange color and these silver accents. You also get a Decepticon insignia here, pretty cool. Gotta love the belly as well, forgot to mention. Unfortunately, as we get to the lower parts of the figure, the painting here does look a bit bland, especially if we compare it to Tarn's leg section. But you know what, it's not that bad, and hey, at least it's not hollow. Aside from these feet, which are hollow due to the transformation, so I can definitely forgive that. So yeah, he looks great, but as far as how he feels, it's pretty good. Not my most solid Voyager class, especially when we get to this arm area, but it's definitely not bad. His hips can hold their positions fairly well, and can get him into a lot of dynamic poses. The head is on a ball joint, so you can move it all over the place, along with a hinge joint here for the transformation, which can look up that far. That just looks fantastic. Can move down that far. A great range going side to side, and a good rotation. His tread shoulders can rotate all the way 360. They're a bit tight, so that's good. But I'm not a big fan of this joint going outwards. This is more of an armpit joint as opposed to an actual shoulder joint, and they do look quite awkward a lot of the times, but it's still workable. You get a bicep swivel, a joint that bends inwards for the transformation, but that can help in terms of posability. Single jointed elbow that bends in a lot more than 90 degrees, wrist swivel, and the POA that drives this figure over the edge. Some finger clamping action. Really makes his poses a lot more expressive. Got a waist swivel. A benefit of him not having additional samurai skirt detail is that he can kick forwards that far, and that is insane. Can move back about that far, which is not as good. An amazing split. Fairly tight thigh swivel. Single jointed knee that bends in a lot. But if you break up this joint that is used for the transformation, you get a double jointed knee that can look fantastic in some poses. And finally for the ankles, moves down, moves up, and a decent pivot. Posability on this guy is fantastic. I can get him into every single pose that I want to get him in. Probably the only point of articulation that I'm missing here is a horizontal hinge joint at the wrists. Would have allowed for some cooler sword wielding poses, but it's still pretty okay. And I really don't know what that is, but I think this figure looks his coolest when in kneeling poses. I'll show some images right here, of course. Not to mention, this guy is a pretty sizable Voyager class figure. Size comparisons. Here's Bludgeon next to another Legacy Evolution figure, the deluxe class Beachcomber. I actually just watched that Golden Lagoon episode earlier today, and I think I love Beachcomber even more now. Comparing him to another sword-wielding, tank-converting Decepticon, here we have the leader class Legacy Blitzwing. Comparing him to a regular 6-inch scale figure, we have the Marvel Legends Mr. Knight. And finally, leader of the Decepticons, Megatron. Now let's get into another one of my favorite part about the figure, which would be his accessories. He comes with these two cannons, this connector piece, and this beautiful katana. These two cannon pieces look pretty cool. Just like Bludgeon's chest, they are cast in this red plastic, but are really nicely spruced up with this silver and orange paint, and a bit of black for the tip of the cannons here. These two are not symmetrical, they are indeed different sculpts, and there are quite a few ways you can integrate them within the figure. You can have him hold these, plug them into his arms, combine them to get this huge badass looking sniper rifle, or the objectively best way to use these things, you get this connector piece. Bottom section can rotate, but for now I'm gonna rotate it this way so that you can see this gray panel showing up from underneath. For this configuration, I like to plug the cannons in like so, and plug in this peg here into either one of these peg holes. The other side works just as well. Personally, I like plugging it into the back one. And here's how they look in what I like to call the Tarn arm cannon configuration. And I think they look pretty cool. Doesn't fit with Bludgeon's look as much as it did Tarn's, which is why this is not my preferred way to integrate these. Rotate this gray piece once again, detach the cannons, and attach them to the opposite sides from where they were before. Yep. And now this peg here will plug into the back. But before you do that, you want to move these turret pieces downwards, which these can also be detached. So I guess just like bronze spare tire, you can use these as an accessory, but I don't recommend doing that. I mean, why would you? These things are so weak. Plug it in just like so. And bam, here he is with both cannons attached to his back, and this is my favorite look for him. Gives him some extra bit of presence. And of course, these are articulated, so you can move them all over the place, creating for some awesome and dynamic look. But out of all of them, my favorite accessory would have to be this shiny katana. My goodness, this thing is so awesome. Weird that a character named Bludgeon has an accessory that slices, but hey, I don't make the rules, I just follow them. And to follow the rules, you simply plug in this sword into his hands. You can plug him into either hand, but the packaging shows him being left-handed, so I'll just do that real quick like so. And you don't have to do this, but for a more coherent look, clamp these fingers down. And now you can get Bludgeon into any kind of pose that you can think of. Trust me, this thing is so fun to play with. I'm gonna give you an example of how dynamic you can get here. Let's try getting him in a lunging pose, shall we? Ankle pivot could have been better. This is not something I've ever done before, and I don't think any toy reviewer has ever done this before, to be honest. Trying to get your figures in a pose for a video, how about that? We'll just race it around like that. Legs can move back a bit more than that. Again, pivot could have been better. Position the head correctly. Position the arms correctly. There we go. It was being a little sloppy, but that's okay. And here he is in a really sloppy lunging pose, and he can still stand up just fine like that. Look at how white his legs are. This is so cool. Obviously, this is really sloppy because I'm doing it on camera. So, of course, without questions, I will show some images of this guy in a dynamic pose. What am I, crazy? Well, I guess another fan configuration that I kind of like to do. Take off his cannons, initiate the sniper mode again. Take off his sword and plug it into his back for weapon storage. I forgot to mention that. There you go. You can also plug it into the tool if you want to. Now, instead of holding it like a gun, you want to hold it like a bat. There you go, the grip isn't the best throws his hands. Double-handed for an easier display. And here we have Bludgeon almost as if he's holding a giant baseball bat or whatever this is. So now Bludgeon can live up to his name and bludgeons his enemies to death. That's a bit goofy, but I kinda like it. Right, with his accessories covered, I am done with the robot mode and let's get into his transformation. And here's Bludgeon in his pretty neat looking almost insectoid tank mode. Out of the two modes, this is definitely the weaker one, but it still looks cohesive enough for an alt mode, and it's still pretty well sculpted and painted, but it does look a bit bald, which is why you're gonna want to bring in this cannon back. And now these two tabs here will plug into these two pegs, like so. And here's Bludgeon in his proper tank mode with all of the turrets attached, and this does look a lot better. It's quite a menacing looking alien tank, especially if you look at this front section. Not big in terms of how the colors look as far as the tank mode goes, but it's still not bad. It looks fine enough. Just the fact that a really well articulated figure can transform into a cohesive looking tank is pretty impressive enough for me. And of course, this does have some articulation. Swivel, and hinge joints on these two top turrets. There is one major flaw with this tank mode though. That is, if you look at the bottom, you can see slits, which is actually not that bad. But my point of contention are these fake wheels. Why do you even sculpt them there if you're not gonna get proper rolling wheels? It does kind of hinder the fun factor of his tank mode not being able to roll at all. Again, if you're not intending for this guy to roll, why sculpt some wheels at all under here? Stupidly pointless, I don't get it. But hey, whatever, at least you can still articulate it. As far as storing the sword goes, the instruction just tells you to plug it into either one of these holes. I mean, that looks okay, but I actually do have a better method of storing the sword. And that is to take advantage of this design defect, rotating the wrists like that. Same thing on the other side. Plug it into his hands just like so. Position it correctly, and here we have the sword stored underneath the tank mode. It does create for a cleaner silhouette, but not perfect. But I still think it's slightly better than what they told you to do. Yeah, pretty neat and compact tank mode. Now let's get into some size comparisons. Here's Bludgeon next to Beachcomber, Blitzwing, Mr. Knight, and finally, Megatron. And there goes my review for the Transformers Legacy Evolution Voyager class comic universe Bludgeon figure. As someone who has been wanting the Tarn mode since forever, yet still couldn't find that figure, this is a more than worthy replacement. He is everything I expected and then some. Again, I understand the complaint that he would be even better with some remolded pieces to make him look a bit more samurai-like, but what we got here, in my opinion, is still pretty fun. Not gonna lie, this might be my favorite Transformer figure of the year so far. So yes, if you are a fan of the character, if you're a fan of Transformers, or if just like me you have been wanting that Tarn mold but are unable to get him, then I highly recommend this figure. As always, I hope you all would recommend my review to everyone else. If you enjoyed the video, please do hit that like and subscribe button, leave a comment if you would like, and don't forget to share this video with a friend. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching my videos, and I might be taking a break from YouTube for a little while. I kind of want to focus on college a bit more, and I also don't really have any more figures to review currently, so yeah, there's that. But still though, I hope I still get to see you all next time. Goodbye! Shh.